Welcome back, XRP family. We have a lot of exciting news to get into tonight in this video. I hope everyone is doing fantastic. Your spirits are up, you're excited, and you understand what you hold. And if not, by the end of this video, hopefully you will. We've got Evernorth, XRP Treasury is here with over a $1 billion bombshell that's just dropped. And it's not just about hoarding XRP. It's about unlocking yield opportunities as well with Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin in a DeFi product. Plus, we've got the Skinny Fed master account update that's really creating quite a stir, and we're going to have a little speculation on that and the bigger picture of what is going on in that macro view that we like to discuss. You know, as I always say, the current price really means absolutely nothing, and the long-term perspective for XRP holders is enormous. Now let's get into this news. Remember, this is not financial advice. You, at the end of the day, have to make the decision if you understand where this environment is going and what it's going to mean long-term. Now, Evernorth Holdings is going public via a SPAC merger with Armada Acquisition Corporation, which is raising over $1 billion to build the world's largest institutional XRP treasury. You know, this is going to be backed by Ripple. SBI Holdings is putting in $200 million. It's got Pantera Capital, Kraken, plus Chris Larson is dropping $50 million of his own XRP in it. And we figured out where David Schwartz is going, as he's going to be the advisor for this Evernorth. And that's where his next move is going to be. You know, and they're listing on the NASDAQ. This is going to be a public company with the name XRPN, happening in Q1 of 2026. You know, absolutely crazy developments as we see this chessboard moving more every day. But here's the twist. You know, Evernorth, as I stated, they're not just stacking XRP and putting it into a treasury. They're actually going to be integrating DeFi using Ripple's RLUSD as an on-ramp for XRP-based decentralized finance, creating yield opportunities and boosting XRP as collateral. You know, this is absolutely a financial revolution we're seeing right before our eyes, more in the making. Again, this is why when we look at holding XRP, if we can put our own XRP into utility products like Flare, which I'm making another video on that, that's the benefit of this environment, and that's exactly what Evernorth is up to. So what does this mean? Big picture. You know, today XRP is at what, $2.34, I believe. This $1 billion could buy, because they're actually going to be buying on the open market, about 420 million XRP off of, again, the open market, not from Ripple's 40 billion XRP, which is set aside for something else, which is not in on the open market. Plus, with DeFi, Evernorth will generate yields by lending XRP or using it as collateral, locking more supply while still earning returns. Less circulating supply means XRP price is going to increase, you know, and they're creating income for those holders that decide to buy into this on the stock side of things. Again, since it's going to be publicly traded, that's a double win for both price and growth. And remember, Evernorth's not alone in this. We've had Trinity, Weebus, Vivo Power, Wellgistics, and Reliance Global building treasuries as well. You know, Vivo Power, as we've talked about in the past, are putting in $121 million. Trident Digital is eyeing about $500 million. Weebus, $300 million. And this is just to name a few, as you can see these on the screen here. You know, these companies are stacking XRP, and some, like Evernorth, are going to be exploring DeFi yields, just like Vivo Power is working with Flare to generate yield. That's the utility piece of this, putting the XRP to work. This is a tidal wave of adoption, and XRP holders, you're in the forefront of this. With hundreds of millions of XRP potentially locked in treasuries, DeFi yield strategies, demand absolutely is going to escalate. Every yield generating XRP adds more stability and upside for this environment, which means our investments are heating up, and that's what we want to see. I don't do price predictions. I'm not telling you that it's going to go to $100 or $1,000 tomorrow. But the one thing I do know, and the thing that I do believe in without a doubt, is it can only go up from where we are as we start to see the supply tightening. Reduced supply with added DeFi income and institutional demand, that is a triple threat for price growth in the future. Resistance at $3 and $4 absolutely could break as these treasuries and yields kick in. This is going, in my opinion, is going to be absolute rocket fuel. And don't forget about this grand finale here. We're still in a government shutdown right now. And as that ends, we still have the spot XRP ETFs that could launch this year. We've been shooting for Q4 the whole time to see some price explosions and all of this picture to really consolidate and come together. We've been throwing another curveball so that strategy has moved to the right a little bit and longer into the year, but we still have a lot of months left for Q4. And just with the SEC on pause right now, but when they come off pause and this government lockup, clears, ETFs could flood again, causing billions, because these are going to be spot ETFs that we're talking about. And we've seen this in the past. We have historical relevance with Bitcoin and Ethereum inflows that we've seen. And with Evernorth in here now with this treasury that's going on, XRP is absolutely on a launch pad. I hope you can see that. And we can't also ignore this news. This is the second half of the news. We had the Federal Reserve just unveiled its Skinny Master account proposal at the Payments Innovation Conference that just happened October 21st of 2025. And this is absolutely a potential game changer for Ripple's future. This streamlined process could fast track Ripple's path to direct access to the Fed's payment rails. Think about it. Blazing fast, bank independent transactions. I'm going to speculate a little bit that this approval might land in the next couple months as we're watching all these administrations streamline their processes and implement faster mechanisms to allow these capabilities, both with the SEC and now we see the Treasury allowing this skinny Treasury account. We're not talking about years in the making, and this is absolutely going to shake up the financial infrastructure. So what does it actually mean for Ripple? They're going to unlock real-time settlement powers for RippleNet, instant efficiency for their partners. Plus, with Fed oversight, what this does, it allows and builds Ripple's credibility with big banks and regulators that absolutely could skyrocket, setting the stage for that federal bank charter that we're waiting for and that push on that. Sure, the skinny version skips interest or borrowing perks for now, but it's a massive launch pad into the future. Now, let's speculate a little bit. Once Ripple secures the banking license that they're after, we're talking a whole new ball game. Picture this, Ripple could absolutely mirror many of Swift's characteristics. As a bank, it might become a centralized hub for connecting thousands of institutions globally, just like Swift's, 11,000 member network that they have. With acquisitions that we've seen, like Treasury for treasury management, Hidden Road for trading, Rail for stable coins, Ripple could offer standardized messaging and settlement. Think Swift's messaging layer, but with blockchain speed. Imagine real-time tracking and compliance built right in with RippleNet. This rivals Swift's integrations and what they have going on in their ISO 222 migration push. XRP could be the universal liquidity token. And remember, with Medico and standard custody, Ripple might even custody assets like Swift's partners do, except it's going to be faster and cheaper. Long term, the positions, this positions Ripple as a financial titan for the next decade. With XRP, and that's the key we care about, woven into global payments as the go-to currency. The skinny account and bank license could see Ripple capturing a chunk of that $150 trillion cross-border market, driving XRP's value. That's what we're here for. Let's not kid ourselves and drive it through the roof with all this environment change that we're seeing. This is the foundation for financial revolution, and Ripple's banking evolution might just outshine Swift. Now get ready for the ride of our lives, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, we're waiting on the Clarity Act. Also in Q4, as the government shut down, they're still working on that. And that piece of regulation is absolutely vitally important to provide a clear foundation of utilization of assets. Hopefully the government will get going and get this pushed this year, but time will tell. We need all this stuff. It's all being laid down. The foundations are right before us. And as that Clarity Act and it gets approved, again, that is the roadway for change that's going to dynamically push all of this environment within the digital asset realm into, the rocket fuel, if you would, that we need. Now, as XRP holders, what's your job? Your only job is to just hold. Be absolutely patient. Stay enthusiastic with what we're seeing and what's going on, and absolutely know and understand what you hold. Evernorth'S 1 billion Treasury, these ETFs, the Fed master accounts, the banking licenses, and the laws are making for an absolutely perfect storm. With supply shrinking and yields growing as they're implementing DeFi in these environments, our investment absolutely could soar to $5, $10 and beyond very, very soon. So just stay absolutely educated, stay fired up and pumped, and most of all, stay safe. The video I made a couple of days ago talks about wallet management, hot wallets and cold wallets. We want you to stay safe. We want you to understand, because we want to make it through this journey together. And that's what it's all about. Now, please hit the like buttons, hit the subscribe buttons, and drop your price predictions. What do you think all of this means for XRP? Is it just blown up hype and it means absolutely nothing? Or is it building the path for XRP to go to the next level? And remember, until next time, until we see each other on the most beautiful beaches of the world, Zip is out.